Hey everybody, I'm the Rusty Mechanic, and I'm super excited to talk about this one today. I'm going to be taking a look at Yolopark's AMK Pro Series model kit. It's Starscream. This is their rendition of Starscream from the original G1 cartoon. I'm going to go through a quick unboxing, just show you the inside and how everything's laid out for the model kit. We'll do a complete build of the figure from top to bottom, go through all the accessories that came in the box with him, and then we'll do a complete review of the figure, of course, going over doing some size comparisons, some articulation, going over the paint, all of the die cast that's in the figure. It is a fantastic, phenomenal figure. Might be my figure of the year. I haven't decided yet. I did get this guy from Madhouse Toys, so please go ahead and give them a look if you're interested in this guy. I will leave a link in the description down below to where I got it from their website. They're an awesome group of guys based out of Canada. So if you're looking to support local, please hit them up for sure. And with all of that stuff out of the way, let's get into it. Okay, so just a quick look at the box. Yolopark's artwork on the boxes are absolutely outstanding. I love this action shot here, very cartoon. If anybody wanted to create a G1 cartoon in this style of animation, I would be all for that. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time in the box. Transformers logo on the side. It is officially licensed by Hasbro, so as you can see, it has all the standard Hasbro stuff. Everything that's in the box in regards to accessories, quick picture on how to put it all together. There's actually instructions in the box, which we'll take a look at. Yolopark does this thing with their boxes where they actually have this outer sleeve on the actual box itself. It's a bit of a tight fit, so pulling it off is a bit of a pain. I hope I didn't move the camera too much there. Anyway, and then inside is like a line art drawing, if you will, in like a chrome finish, which is very cool. 40th anniversary logo on the back. And then inside, we'll have some bubble packaging with all of the parts and the accessories. And I'm being a little cautious with it because the two halves do tend to fall apart. Anyway, this is the instructions, like I said, a very quick overview of how to put it together. You really don't need it because as you'll see, that's upside down. As you'll see from the packaging, they actually lay everything out in, you know, how it's put together and almost the order in which it's put together, whether you want to go from top to bottom or bottom to top. I'll be going from bottom to top. I find that's easier. And then there's also a bottom tray underneath the main tray, which I will just put off to the side here. So, and unfortunately, this keeps happening. This will be like the fourth time that I've put this together and pulled it apart just to do this video and some other stuff I was doing. But some of the parts do actually fall out of their slots. So it's not perfect packaging. Not that you're going to lose anything, but just something to keep in mind. That stuff does fall around. So we'll just put that off to the side there. And we'll go ahead and open up the main section here, which has most of the parts. And I'm just going to put this off to the side. I'm just going to take the other cover off the smaller tray, which has some parts as well as all of the accessories, with the exception of the faceplate. The faceplate is actually in. I will tell you, like, so kudos to Yolopark for their packaging, because it does lock in. Like, it actually locks in on the corner. I'll just show it on the corner of the tray, on those grooves, which makes it a bit of a pain to actually get open. It doesn't get any easier. I will tell you, this will be, like I said, this is the fourth time that I have done this. So, all right, okay, let's just switch to the overhead shot so you can see the build. So I am going to start with the feet. There is a left and a right to these. You know, this is his right, our left, if you will. And there is a left and right one. I say that because there is an ankle rocker. The hinge is on the inside here, so you want to make sure that that is on the inside of the ankle when you put these down. Right next to them in the bottom tray, let me just see if I can pull this in a bit, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. In the bottom of the tray are the shoes, I guess. These are die cast. They actually have some decent weight to them, and there is a tab on the inside that just goes into the slot in the toe. Literally just slides on like that. Like that. And then the legs are here. Again, there's a left and a right to these. And I kept, I'll be honest, I kept putting them on backwards. These two pegs are actually meant to be the back of the leg. As you can see, this is the knee in the front here. So you want to make sure these two slots in that hole are facing forward. There's a peg hole in the bottom and, of course, a peg at the top of the foot. So we just want to push the foot into the leg, and hopefully it'll stand up and it won't fall over. Looks like it's going to fall over. Oh, see, I did it again. I don't know why I keep doing that. Some kind of mental block. Anyway. There we go. So I'll grab the shin covers, I guess, right? In front of his legs. They have a single peg here on the inside that just goes into that hole there. And the two pegs that are on either side of the legs, they actually slide into these open areas on either side here. So we're just going to slide it on like that and press it into place. You know what? I'm just going to lay the legs down. I'm just going to lay the legs down for now. There we go. Then we can grab the shin plates. These are also die cast, got some nice weight to them. They're actually marked left and right, oddly enough. So it's just two tabs that go into the slots in the front of the legs, obviously in the opening in the leg or the shin cover. Fits right inside, snaps into place very easily. Same thing with that side. And then we'll move to the pelvic area. This has a ball joint for the waist, right? So the upper torso will clip onto that, and these two pegs here. I'll just note, we'll get into it for the articulation. Sorry if I cough in the microphone. I am suffering from a cold still. So these actually, they pivot on a peg, but as you'll see from the screw that's just inside here, it does actually rotate out as well. So what I find is that when you're putting the peg into the top of the leg, the hip skirts and that will actually impede. But what you can do is you can get it about halfway on and then use the leg to pivot the leg out. So you're actually extending it down, and then you can push the leg the rest of the way on and then put it back up inside the torso, so you end up looking like that. I would do the same thing on the other side. So again, just get it about halfway in and then use it to manipulate that part so you can, it will actually collapse up inside on you sometimes. There. As you're trying to push it on. There we go. Alright. Then we'll move on to the upper torso, the coolest part of this kit. Some awesome details that are going on through this entire thing, which I will go through once we get all this together. But like I said, this ball peg that's at the top here just goes into the hole in the bottom of the torso, and it's just a straight push on. You do need some force. It is a tight fit, but it will just pop on there like that. We'll move on to the arms. So the shoulders are in the top part of the top left and right of the tray. And then the forearms are in the middle, right, and left. So this peg goes into the shoulder of the torso. This goes into the lower bicep. So we'll do that first. Like that. And then take the hand, which is sitting next to the forearm. It is just a ball peg. Goes into the bottom of the arm. Not too much force needed. It is a decent fit, but not as tight as the torso. And then this peg will go into the hole of the shoulder. Just like that. And then we'll do the other arm. So shoulder and forearm. Peg those together. You want the hole for the null ray attachment to be pointing out, obviously, right? The elbow joint facing forward, and then we'll grab the hands. Come on. There we go. And we'll pop that into the upper torso. All right, and then at the top of the tray is the back plates, the jet vents, if you will, go on his shoulders. These are also die cast, very nice weight to them. They are also marked left and right. Single peg here with a smaller peg in the middle on both of them, and they will go into. There's a hole right here and right here, as well as the smaller slot here, if you will. So these, and I found these were a very tight fit. So as you're pressing it on, there is a bit of force required to get it to slide into place. Not too much, but it is noticeable compared to everything else. Like, you'll actually hear it snap into place, potentially. There we go. Alright. Turn them around. And we'll get the head sculpt out of the tray. So a head sculpt is just a single ball peg at the bottom there. It goes into the hole, obviously, the top center of the cockpit, or his chest. Pops into place very nicely. And that is everything in the larger tray with the exception of the additional faceplates, but I'll get into those when I do the accessories. So we'll move over to the smaller tray that's in the bottom. So these in the top here are the back of his legs, and they just have two openings on the inside center, and I'll just turn them around, and as you can see, there's two pegs in the bottom of his legs. Doesn't seem to be a left and a right to these. They're pretty much identical. I find the easiest thing to do is to just hook it underneath these two ledges that are at the back of his legs, and then that lines it up perfectly, and then you can just press it on. The same thing on the other side. And just get it lined up there like that, and press it on. And then there's four side panels, and it's a little weird because these aren't actually in the packaging. Give me a sec. I find I always need a, oddly enough, a spudger to like get these out, because you can't actually get your finger in there enough to flick them out. But I find these panels are actually not sitting in the right order in the tray. I actually had to look at the pictures on the box to see how these are supposed to line up. So the shorter line out of the length of this goes up, and the longest flat part is the back. So you just want to figure out how these go on based on that, right? So for example, this one is actually the inside of this leg, like that, which makes this one the outside of, nope. This is also the inside of this leg. So this is the inside of this leg. Then this one is going to be the outside of this leg. And this one is going to be the outside of that leg. There we go. And then finally, we have the null rays. The amazing null rays. I'll just go over and actually review these right now before I snap them on, just because there is so much good detail in them that I think it's worth talking about. There's even the weathering that's on the figure is actually, there's actually some similar weathering that's like in the vents of the null ray back here and in the rings around the barrel. So you know what I think we all remember from the toy or the cartoon, right? This is very nicely detailed null rays, some weathering and coloring in around here and in the venting that's here as well. So really like the paint applications and the weathering details on these Yolopark guys. So these just go on those holes in the side of the arm that I pointed out earlier, right? You make sure that those are out so that you can clip the null rays in. And these just pop into place very nicely. very easily. Not a lot of pressure required there. And that is the entire build, as easy as that, in, what was that, like 5 minutes, I think? Let's take a nice look at him here, now that he's all put together. So, with the Yolopark stuff, they do, like, the paint applications are really, really well done. They do weathering effects on all their figures. So they've released Megatron and Optimus and Nemesis Prime so far for the G1 characters, and they all have this weathering as you would expect from, you know, a mechanical being that's been at war for 4 million plus years. You'd think that there would be some battle damage or scarring or whatever on them. But the figure is painted from top to bottom. Right, so we've got like this off gray color for the wings, the arms, the legs, nice red for the torso and the pelvic area. Head sculpt is a dark gray, dark gray for most of the head, right? Venting details on either side. The face is a little darker than the wings, right? But it is a dark gray with red eyes. The eyes, by the way, they do have a light up feature. And it's actually activated by taking the null ray, and so the center area of the null ray here, and tapping it against the head, and it activates it. I went and ordered batteries, but they didn't come in time, and I wanted to get the review done before the weekend, so I'm doing it now. Batteries are on the way. You would think Amazon would be faster with delivering batteries, but they weren't. Anyway, so I can't show that off, but the feature's there, and it's explained in the instructions on how to put the batteries into the head. Let's see what else. So there's a translucent orange cockpit. There is some details inside the cockpit. As you can see, it is actually jet cockpit details. You can actually take the cockpit out, and I found that you do kind of need something to pop it out, because it's not. It's a decent fit. There we go. Just a little bit of pressure on the side with something like a spudger will get it to pop. And it is... Come on. You stupid thing. All right. Yeah, so this is what there we go. So it is tab that goes into the slot here. And it is a tight fit. It is a tight squeeze. But as you can see, I'll just bring it in. So they've actually got cockpit details in there, right? The control stick in the center with the seat, you know, some mechanical stuff going on, some electronics going on for the cockpit dash. So that's neat. And to be honest, I didn't actually, like, the translucent orange on this is good enough that I didn't even really notice that you could see the cockpit through the translucent orange plastic until after I popped it off and saw what it was I was looking at on the inside. Now I can't unsee it, and I kind of regret popping it off to look at it, but it is there. What else? So there's lots of die cast, like I was saying. So this is die cast up here. His chest is die cast. His pelvic area, no, I thought it was, but it's not. These shin plates are die cast. His feet down here are die cast. His elbow joints and his knee joints are not, but they are painted in like they're painted to look like they're die cast, which is a nice touch as well. So again, very cool paint details going on with this figure. Very excellent details overall. There's lots of line details in the wings. He does have his Decepticon logo here, which is upside down, which is I think the way that it's supposed to be for the Seekers. Let's see, what else? Let's take a look at some of the weathering effects, right? So there's the weathering effects I'm talking about. Like there's weathering here on the chest, weathering here at the hips. There's weathering here in the forearms, right? All up and down the sides here, up in the shoulders, here in the legs, on the sides, right? In the knees, here in the shin plates, especially down here in the feet, right? So very cool effects that they've added into the paint just to add that level of detail. Just bringing a close-up for the face sculpt. So here he has his laughing face that comes on the head sculpt. We've got the venting on the side of the face. You know, some crown details for the head the stuff that we're typically used to with Starscream, but that's a very good looking face sculpt for sure. For sure, it's a very nice looking figure. It's going to look amazing on your shelf if you get it. Let's go ahead and go over the articulation. So as you can imagine from what you saw from the build, right, there's a lot of ball joints going on here. So we'll start at the head, but the ball joint of the head does allow it to look back slightly. It does let it look forward slightly. Obviously, it can rotate 360 degrees. You can get a slight head tilt as well on that ball joint. There's a little bit of clearance there. I'll just point out the wings just before we get into the articulation. So the wings can actually be folded back 90 degrees, and that's just to, I believe, just to clear it out of the way of the arms as you're doing any type of articulation. Obviously, I think we want our Starscream wings to be out like this, but of course, you could position them in whatever angle you want. Maybe you need the room to fit it onto your shelf because there is a bit of a wingspan here. Move into the arms. So the arms do go 360 degrees. Again, you may have to get the arm or the wings out of the way just to do that. Arms go out 90 degrees. There is a butterfly joint here in the torso, so you can actually get the arms to rotate forward a decent amount, so he can definitely reach across the front of his chest here. The elbow, so actually, sorry, the null rays, because they're in a ball joint in here, they do actually have some articulation as well. You can obviously rotate them around in whatever position you want, but they can actually be angled out or angled in as well, depending on what you're trying to go for. So the arms, the elbows are kind of interesting. It is a double elbow joint, but you do have to manipulate it pretty intricately to get it to happen. So if I don't apply any pressure to the forearm and just try to bend at the elbow, it will only go 90 degrees like so. What you have to do is you actually have to get the forearm to bend here at this pivot point. So with a little bit of pressure at the forearm, you'll see it'll break away and sort of tuck under the elbow. And then you get the full 180 degrees like that. Let's take a look at the hands. So the hands have a thumb on a ball joint. This is kind of tight right out of the packaging. But obviously you can manipulate this in whichever way you need to, right, 360 degrees. There's a double pin on the knuckles, so you can close the index finger up completely. The other three fingers are all fixed together in this kind of open splayed position. So they are also double jointed, so you can rotate them into a fist, but the only individual finger is the index finger. That's a little disappointing given the size of the figure. I would have expected that we'd have individual articulation on all the fingers, but it's not a huge deal. We have a bicep swivel as well. The wrist, as you saw during the build, is a ball joint, so that means that there is some pivoting that you can do with the hand as well as rotate it 360 degrees. The ab crunch area is the most interesting and probably has the most articulation because it is on a ball joint and there is a little bit of space. You can actually bend the waist back slightly. He can ab crunch forward that much. What is very interesting is the back actually has some weathered pistons that are hiding underneath the back plate here. So as you are doing the ab crunch, you'll actually expose the pistons, which is a nice detail. With the ball joint and some of the clearance, it does also mean that you get a little bit of an ab tilt. Right, so you can tilt him left and right. The hips... there are hip skirts here at the sides, which are a bit of a tight fit. Yeah. They're extremely tight. Extremely tight. So you can flick them out so that you can get the legs out 90 degrees. So the front hip skirts are actually really neat. They've actually got a double articulation going on. So you can simply pull them forward and they will maintain. They won't expose any clearance issues, so actually maintain contact with the front hip so that it's not, you don't get like a large amount of gapping, but it does actually double pivot. As you can see, you actually rotate it 90 degrees down and move it out up even further, which exposes it. Sorry, you can actually manipulate it to be tilted 90 degrees, right? And then you can actually pull it up forward so that it's like that, and that just gives you all the clearance you need to bring the leg above 90 degrees. If you want even more, again, like we talked about before with putting the leg onto the peg there, you can actually pull down and forward on the leg, and as you'll see, it'll rotate down even further on this screw that's here. And now you can actually get like a high kick position out of it as well. So some very cool articulation going on in around the waist area, which I like from Yolopark. So let's move down to the legs here. So we have a thigh rotation, obviously. There is no knee rotation. Knee does bend over 90 degrees. And as you're bending the knee, right, you'll expose this joint here, but it does just look like it's part of the robot leg, right? There's no weird gapping going on there, which is nice. All right, so yeah, so the knee does go over 90 degrees, does expose the knee, but it doesn't look atrocious. And then we have the ankle tilt, which is actually an extreme 90 degrees if you want them to do the splits or the Van Damme or whatever. Doesn't rotate out. There is a toe tilt as well that you can manipulate. And the heel is fixed for the jet engine. There we go. Let me just get them positioned here. So this is the thing you have to watch with the legs, right? If you're manipulating these, you could extend one leg longer than the other one, which will throw off the balance of the figure. Okay, let's take a look at the accessories. So let's start with the blast effects. So these blast effects can be used with the null rays, or they can be used in his heels as part of the jet engines. So the long blast effect part here actually just pegs into the center. And then there's an opening here that just pegs right onto the end of the null ray. And it is a good fit. Ends up looking like that. So that's a nice blast effect. I like that. It's translucent purple, nice and solid though. It's not soft. So that's cool. And then this, so the outside of it is actually a large peg that actually fits into the bottom of the heel. So if you use the flight stand, which I'll show in a second there, you can actually put it in the bottom of his foot so that you get that blast effect as well. So that's cool. One of the more fun features, or accessories, no, sorry, feature. One of the more fun features that this version of Starscream comes with is they actually have the chest missiles in the front. So you just flip up these two die-cast panels, and then you have the 6 sets of purple missiles that are inside. And it does come with its own blast effect as well. So you'll see there's like a crisscross pattern between the top two and the middle two rockets, and there's a crisscross pattern that's in the end of this blast effect. So you just have to line that up with that crisscross and press it into place. And I will tell you that it is a small pattern. There we go. Right, so then you get this, like he's launched a pair of rockets. I will tell you, though, that unfortunately to me, it just looks like nipple extensions, so I'm not going to be using this. It just looks too weird. Again, nice for the blast. I'm a fan of blast effects. I like it when companies add in blast effects for us, but this just looks too weird to me. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are they purple nurples? What else do we have? Flight stand. So the flight stand is the last part, and actually this is probably the most, I'm just going to slide them back out of the way. This is probably the most disappointing accessory in the kit. And I just remember that there's the face sculpts as well, which I'll do in a second. So the flight stand is the most disappointing. And the flight stands that have come with Optimus and Megatron have also been equally disappointing. Now, fun part is you can actually interconnect all the flight stands together, which is nice. It does come with this arm, of course, right, which you can, pivot, manipulate down here, right? So this peg obviously goes into any one of these 3 holes, and then we also have a hook, which goes around the waist. And then we also have, and I need the spudger again because this thing is pegged in there. And then we have the part that attaches the hook to the arm. So we'll take the larger peg of this piece here, which you can bend 90 degrees, and it goes into the top of the arm. And what's interesting about this is, let me just take this off and show it. So it's actually a hex shape here, but this is round. But what's interesting is that when you plug this in, it actually limits, it kind of limits the position and like the direction in which this is facing, because it'll have a tendency to flick off into one of the angles. So anyway, and then we want to take the smaller peg and put it into, again, a hex shape. I don't know why they're hex. They should be round, but anyway, we'll peg that onto the top, and then you have the ability to obviously pivot this 90 degrees. So with this peg going into one of these holes, right? And then we can wrap this claw around Starscream's waist in some manner. So the claw does open, right? So you want to open it all the way up. And you're going to see me struggle with this, I'll tell you right now. And I'll tell you why. Actually, you'll see why. When you're trying to put the hook around his waist, it's actually grabbing onto either side of his wings, right? Which is not a good, that's not really what you want, right? So then obviously you want to go, okay, well, let me just shrink the claws a bit, right? And try to feed it in between the wings. But the wings get in the way, right? So you're kind of fighting with getting it on either side of the legs and then trying to slide it up in between the wings, right? Just to get it to grab onto something decent and squeeze the claw around. Now, the other thing I found as well, which I run into this with like every single flight stand I've ever dealt with, but he's too heavy, right? Like I haven't been able to figure out a decent way there to get him to sit on the flight stand without him looking really dumb. And then because this is all plastic, it just like he just wobbles there, right? And in the manipulation now, so the arm is pointing straight forward, but he's pointed off to the side now. And then if you try to manipulate that back center, it doesn't seem to want to go exactly where you want. That's actually the best I've gotten it so far, so that's actually not bad. But he is, again, he's leaning way forward, right? And again, I haven't been able to, maybe I need to tighten this screw. So the thing's making a liar out of me. When I was playing with this earlier today, I could not get it to do this. So there it is, right? And then you can put the blast effects, right, into his jets. But same thing, like if his legs are straight, you can't get this in there. So then you have to manipulate his legs into some kind of, bent position upwards, which throws off his, center of gravity, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the flight stand's not fantastic, guys, unfortunately. It's, again, accessories are nice, but as I've said before, the accessories have to work in order for them to be useful, right? So I definitely won't be using this. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's the worst thing in the box, to be honest. And I mean, it is just a flight stand, so... Alright, so let's put that off to the side over here. Alright, and then we'll go over the last two accessories, which are actually in the main tray, just below the head sculpt, which are the two face plates that it comes with. So there is this one, which is just a straight, normal face, no smile, no smirk, no expression, expressionless Starscream, if you want. And then this one, which is a little hard to see, but it is a smirk. There's a bit of a smirk on this side over here. And both of these are just two pegs on the back, right, of the face sculpt, so it's very easy to put them on. In fact, I find the easiest thing to do is to actually just pop the head off. And then you can obviously just pull forward on the bottom of the head sculpt. The eyes stay in the head sculpt, but you just take the face off. Pick the one you want, line up the two pegs, and simply press it into place. It's interesting because when you hold this smirk face in your hand, it doesn't look like anything, but the minute that you put it on the head sculpt, it looks like a smirk face, so that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I like the laughing one better, so I'm going to go ahead and put that one back on. And it is as simple as that. Put the two face sculpts away. And I'll do a quick size comparison as well before we go. So there is Yolopark Megatron, and there is Yolopark Optimus Prime. Obviously, I've got Megatron and Optimus in a bit of a A-stance pose, but as you can tell, they're slightly taller than Starscream, which I think we've come to accept. That Starscream should be a little bit shorter than Megatron and Optimus, although the cartoons sometimes depict them as being the same size, same height. But the three of them, I mean, obviously they look fantastic. They're going to look great in your collection, on your shelf. Even though they are non-transforming figures, doesn't matter. These things just look really, really good on your shelf, and they're all like under $100, I think, if I remember correctly. So if you're like me and you got out of the Masterpiece game, but you're looking for something to fill in that void, these are definitely the way to go. And with all that being said, guys, again, thank you very much for sticking around for this review. Again, this is it's a fantastic set so far. I'm really, really looking forward to any other figures that are coming out from them for the G1 cartoons. I know they also have some figures from the movies and stuff. I'm not really interested in those. I don't know if I'll end up doing reviews. But if you are into them, I mean, so far, like if they're anything like these, you should give these Yolopark guys a shot. They're just fantastic figures. Starscream in particular here, just excellent paint applications. Like I said, the weathering effects are awesome. The line details in the wings just really make it pop. Face sculpt is fantastic. Die cast parts all over the place from top to bottom. Give it a nice weight and heft. And I mean, just look at this. I mean, that just looks so good just standing there with the other two. So go ahead and check out Madhouse. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can go and get your own if you're interested in trying these out. And once again, I am the Rusty Mechanic. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time.